Hello, I'm JW, and picked up a few items on eBay the other day, and of course they're quite old and certainly not recommended for use. Here's the first one. This is actually a thermostat. It's say pretty old and not in the best of condition, but no, costs virtually nothing. And the other item was this timer, which is actually unused and new in the box, although of course it's not really new at all. It's been around for several decades. So let's have a look at those. Now, this is the first device, and it's a thermostat, as will be used for controlling heating. But obviously, just mounted on the wall, and here's the knob, and you can adjust the temperature to whatever you've got on this scale, which goes from 50 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. And there's a little white or some kind of lighter coloured spot there, which obviously would indicate the approximate temperature. Now, this is made out of brown Bakelite, and so it's fairly shiny inside, which is what the outside would probably look like originally. And at the top here has got the manufacturer's logo, so just going to get that on the angle. And that's Unity, as in Unity Heating Limited of Welwyn Garden City. Of course, long since defunct there. And the actual plate here is metal, just switched on with those 3 screws. So a closer look in there. And got the ratings at the top here, of course, so voltage, also it's 250, 15 amps, and the 5 is probably the rating if it's switching an inductive load, and obviously the degrees Fahrenheit and the serial number there. Oddly, thing it goes from 50 to 70. I mean, 70 Fahrenheit is certainly not hot by any standards, though obviously it's not too bad for living in, but certainly if the lower ranges here, you wouldn't want to be living in a house in those kinds of temperatures. And say the lid is just a Bakelite piece there. And one thing you've used on this is the absolutely massive size of the components inside. It's the usual bimetallic strip arrangement, so you've basically got the upper contact here and then the lower one here. And as the temperature changes, this strip will just bend in and out a little bit and also make the contact at the top there. And the temperature dial here basically does a through, which goes through the middle there, threaded bolt or whatever goes through there, and as you tighten it down, of course, it presses or releases the movable bar to adjust the point at which it will make contact. But yeah, I mean, the actual physical size of this, I mean, the contacts are absolutely gigantic at the end there. There's a huge stud in there. And all of this metalwork here is purely for essentially what is a single pole on and off switch. The back just has the pattern numbers applied for on the back there. These 2 terminals are actually contacts, just sort of basically between the 2 sides of the contact here. And they just come up to the studs there, so one goes underneath and this one goes around on the top there. A couple of other things this has got which are quite bizarre is on the side here there's a small hole and there's actually a little screw that fits in there, and there's a corresponding one on this side, and they actually go into these holes here which actually go all the way through to the back. And if you put something on the side there, and of course that would clamp whatever's in there into place. Now I suppose you could put wires through there to this terminal, but if you came from here then you have to go down to there. But bearing in mind the terminal's brought out on the back anyway, so it doesn't seem entirely useful. That would be the point of those, and they're almost flush with the back plate as well. This is only a very small inset there, so whether that was intended to mount onto a further piece that attached it to the wall, perhaps, that would seem more likely, sort of 2 rods coming out of the wall and a screw on the side to mount it in position. So there doesn't seem to be much else in the way of purpose for those. So there is another hole here which is actually underneath the contact arrangement there, so there we have it. And the knob actually turns totally freely in this particular situation without the lid, but on the lid itself at this end there's actually yet another little hole there which a screw goes through, and then when that's in place there's a little piece on the knob there which will prevent the knob from turning obviously round and round and round forever. So that's that. It's quite a simple thing, not a lot else we can say about that, but certainly interesting to see how absolutely gigantic and grossly over-engineered the thing is, simply to switch on and off. And so on modern thermostats, this strip is literally just a couple of millimetres wide and usually sort of about that length. So This absolutely gigantic. Now this is the other item, and this is, as it says on there, a time switch made by National, which I think turned into Panasonic after they got rid of that brand. And as you can see, it's still in the box and appears to have never actually been used. It's say fairly old, and the box is a bit dirty on that side, but nevertheless it's pretty much as it was when it was manufactured, made in Japan. This label here is rather interesting. It's $29.12, which you might imagine is the price, and there's an R here, which might be possibly for the South African rand, perhaps. It says Swinline or Swimline on the top there, and there's a telephone number underneath here, but that doesn't appear to relate to anything these days. But I say the R is say a bit unusual. And inside the thing, here's the actual timer itself, and as you can see, it's pretty much as it was made, sort of brand new and unused. Metal case and plastic window there with the clock inside, and just a couple of holes on the back for mounting, and of course that's where your wiring would have entered at the bottom there, the top being just plain, and sides likewise. And the top just clips on with the little tab there to release just little indents in the metal at the side. And of course they just go into corresponding little depressions in the side of the case there. Now inside, say, it is totally unused, and it's a 24-hour type, so you've got the arrow here indicating the current time there, and obviously this is night time and daytime. And then your switching times are done by having these orange and white pieces which clip in, so as we of course turn it around, when it gets to this position here, then that will switch on, and you see this little orange indicator comes on in the window there, and the white ones will switch off. They're bizarrely positioned right next to each other there, so it will go off and on again, and then as the white one passes, then of course that will switch off. A little switch at the top here, which as you can see there just says manual switch on, slide to the left, so if you slide it across, and again the switch comes on, little indicator there. And of course it does the same if you switch it off as well. Now the actual pieces here are quite bizarre, because they actually unclip like that, and then the whole thing just comes out, and it's a little metal hook there with the plastic locking piece, so you can simply just put that on in pretty much any position you like. Just hook it underneath there, and it just clips in using the lever, like so. So quite an odd arrangement, and of course these could easily be lost, and you've actually got some spares here on the side. There's another white one, and obviously then you just clip that in at the appropriate location. Let me put it the right way up, that is. And so it just hooks under the slotted edge there, and then presses down to snap into position. And you've actually got two slots there, so you could just have one on and off time, or use all three, as you've got room to store all of the little spare hook pieces. And again, as that comes around, so it will just snap on and off by the tabs here, which of course just press into the mechanism at the top there. Now the only difference between the two is that the prong on the back, of course, is in a slightly different position for the on and off variety. As you see there, the orange ones have the prong in the centre, and the white ones, of course, have it at the bottom. And of course, those just go into the plate here, either at the top or the bottom there, depending on whether it's going to be switched on or switched off. Terminals at the bottom, pretty straightforward. You've just got the basically line and neutral, and of course line and neutral out as well. And the power for the motor is of course taken from the supply as well. And this is a 220 volt 50 Hertz device, and it's marked obviously with the power there, and also the load over there. So quite a nicely made device, and so it's all metal casing. Certainly not the kind of thing you're going to be buying these days. And the lid there with the just a plastic window in there. This probably wouldn't be compliant to actually use now, because although of course you could still use it, there's no particular problem with that. It's the fact that the lid is not fixed with any kind of tool. It literally just clips on, And of course under here you've got your live terminals, which your fingers could easily just press onto. And of course, not forgetting the other point as well, if you want to actually adjust it, you've got to take the lid off. And certainly if you want to do the manual switching thing, likewise, the lid has to be removed. So it's quite a nicely made thing, but sadly not something you're going to be wanting to use. As obviously compliance reasons, it's not really very practical to have the end user having to remove it and having a row of live terminals at the bottom. So a couple of eBay items there, and say both extremely cheaply, and in both cases the postage was more than the item itself. And in the case of the thermostat, I'll see if I can clean that up a bit before doing the pictures for the website. But the, of course, timer is in perfectly brand new condition, so no need to do anything with that. It's literally unused and new in the box. Until next time, thanks for watching.